I never imagined that a weekend in Las Vegas could change my life forever. My name is Eleanor, and I've spent the last 30 years juggling family, work, and the small joys that keep you going: birthdays, Sunday dinners, book club afternoons. But nothing, not a single quiet moment of ordinary life, prepared me for the storm my daughter, Madison, would bring into my heart. It all started the day she announced she was eloping. No wedding bells, no invitations, no fanfare, just a text message that read, "Mom, I'm getting married tomorrow. Don't worry about anything. Love, M." My first thought was panic, then disbelief. My daughter, who had spent her life telling me every detail of her plans, had kept this from me? But then came the sting of excitement. She was finally taking a leap, and of course, I wanted her to be happy. I cleared my schedule, booked my flight, and before I knew it, I was on a plane to Vegas, carrying a suitcase filled with champagne, snacks, and an envelope with cash, enough to cover the little luxuries she might want on her impromptu honeymoon. From the moment I arrived, everything sparkled with that classic Vegas allure: the neon lights, the high-rolling energy, the sound of slot machines clanging in rhythm with my heartbeat. Madison was radiant, laughter spilling from her like sunlight. Her groom, Ryan, had a confident smile, the kind that makes mothers' hearts both swell with relief and tighten with that tiny, anxious twinge we carry when trusting someone with our children. I remember feeling proud as I watched them exchange vows in a tiny, over-the-top chapel, a glittered Elvis impersonator presiding. My gift, a generous contribution to their honeymoon, seemed like a simple, loving gesture. I was a mother, after all. That's what we do. We give. We protect. We support. But happiness, as I would soon learn, is fragile, especially when mixed with pride and misunderstanding. The honeymoon started smoothly: dinners on the Strip, little adventures down the neon-lit streets, and nights in luxury suites that smelled faintly of roses and excitement. I called her daily, just to make sure she had everything she needed, leaving sweet messages about their future, careful not to intrude. Every "I love you," Mom reassured me, until it didn't. It began subtly. A text that went unanswered for hours. A call that dropped mid-sentence. By the end of the first week, I felt the chill of a door slowly closing. Madison, my once open book, was now a locked vault. And then the accusations started. "Mom, you've been meddling. You didn't have to fund this. You're overstepping. Please leave me alone." I stared at my phone, disbelief washing over me in waves. How could the daughter I had nurtured, cheered for, and even bankrolled into happiness turn this anger on me? The person who had begged for my support, who had accepted my help without hesitation, was now accusing me of ruining her life. It was a betrayal that struck deeper than any fight, any argument I had endured in the past. This was personal. This cut straight to the core of a mother's heart. And as I sat in my small Vegas hotel room, neon lights casting restless shadows across the walls, I knew something had to be done. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but to reclaim my dignity, my voice, and perhaps my daughter. If you're watching this story unfold, and you think you've ever been hurt by someone you love, stay with me. Because what comes next will shock you, and it's just the beginning. The moment the honeymoon ended, reality hit me like a cold Vegas night. Madison and Ryan returned home, all bright smiles and suitcase exhaustion, and yet, the warmth I expected from a daughter never reached me. Instead, the first words out of Madison's mouth were sharp and clipped. "Mom, we need some space." I mean it. I froze. Space? After everything I did for her? After flying halfway across the country, after helping pay for every extravagant hotel, every dinner, every little indulgence she wanted on her wedding weekend? I had been nothing but supportive. Space? I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, though my chest tightened. Madison, I just wanted to make sure everything went smoothly. You said I could help. She shook her head, her hair falling in a perfect wave over her shoulder, eyes cold. No, Mom. You've been meddling. You didn't understand what we wanted. You didn't listen. I couldn't understand it. I replayed every moment in Vegas. Every step I took, every favor I did, had been with love. And yet, here she was, accusing me of ruining her marriage before it had even begun. The days that followed were filled with silence, icy and sharp. Calls went unanswered, texts ignored, emails unopened. Every attempt I made to reach her was met with a polite but firm dismissal. My heart ached. I tried reasoning. I tried humor. I tried showing patience. Nothing worked. And then came the discovery. It started innocently enough. A casual conversation with Ryan's sister at a family barbecue, a name dropped here, a comment there, until a pattern began to emerge. Madison had confided in her in-laws, not about her excitement or love for me, but about how I supposedly interfered in their decisions. The story she told was distorted, exaggerated, and, in some cases, completely fabricated. She's trying to control us, Ryan had allegedly said, according to the whispers I heard. She's giving money and advice we didn't ask for. It's suffocating. Suffocating? I had flown across the country, not to smother her, but to lift her up. To celebrate her happiness. But now, in Madison's eyes, my care had turned into control, and my generosity into guilt. The betrayal didn't stop there. One afternoon, as I sorted through the bills and receipts I had kept from the Vegas trip, a habit, really, of keeping everything organized, I noticed something odd. Madison had returned part of the money I had given her. Not as a thank you, not as repayment, but anonymously. A wire transfer from her account to a completely different name, labeled vaguely as gift. I asked Ryan about it when I finally cornered him on a family call. His hesitation spoke volumes. It's complicated, he stammered. Madison said it's better if you just let it go. Let it go? How could I? My instincts screamed that this wasn't just about money. It was about the story she was spinning, one that painted me as an intruder, a meddler, a villain in the happiest moment of her life. And the worst part? Everyone in her circle seemed to believe her. Friends, in-laws, even distant relatives. My mind raced. How had it come to this? I, who had dedicated years of love, patience, and support, was now being vilified in my own daughter's narrative. I decided I needed proof. Real, undeniable evidence of her lies and manipulation. I began documenting everything: texts, emails, receipts, conversations. Every slight, every accusation, every omission. Each entry added to a growing weight in my heart, but also to a map that would, eventually, guide me through the storm she had created. And then, the whispers of an even darker betrayal began to surface. Ryan's friends hinted at conversations Madison had with them, portraying me as someone who wanted control over their marriage finances. Someone who planned to interfere in their future decisions. I couldn't believe it. Every step I had taken had been for her happiness. And yet, here I was, the villain in her story. It was in those long nights, pacing my living room and staring at the flickering lamplight, that I realized something crucial. this betrayal was not just about money or advice. It was about power, the power to rewrite reality, to twist love into guilt, and to turn family against itself. My hands shook as I typed out a note to myself. I will not be silenced. I will not be erased. And with that, the plan began to take shape. A quiet, patient, and strategic plan, not to hurt Madison, not in a way that would break her, but to reveal the truth, to expose the lies, and to reclaim the dignity and respect I had earned as her mother. If you're still watching, I need to warn you, what comes next is where the suspense deepens, the stakes rise, and the twists become shocking. Madison thought she had the upper hand. She had no idea what was coming. After the realization of Madison's betrayal, a storm raged inside me, one I could not calm. Days turned into restless nights, filled with questions that had no easy answers. How could a daughter, my own flesh and blood, treat me with such coldness? How could the person I had supported, cheered for, and poured my love into, suddenly see me as an enemy? I wandered through my quiet house, passing the framed photos on the walls, Madison as a toddler, her first day of school, her graduation day, moments of pure joy frozen in time. And yet now, those same images seemed like a cruel reminder of the love that had been twisted, distorted, and rejected. At first, I considered retreating. Perhaps if I let time pass, she would come back. Maybe she would realize the lies she believed, the stories she told herself. But the gnawing sense of injustice would not let me sleep. Something had to be done, not recklessly, not in anger, but thoughtfully. I began by speaking to people I trusted, old friends who knew both Madison and me, family members who had witnessed our bond over the years. I listened quietly, gathered their input, and watched carefully how information about me had spread. It became painfully clear Madison had been rewriting the narrative in real time. Each conversation she had, each comment to friends, painted me as meddlesome, controlling, and selfish. The emotional turmoil was suffocating. I cried alone in my study, my hands gripping the arms of my chair as if it were the only anchor in a world that felt unsteady. I even wondered, for a fleeting moment, whether I had failed as a mother. Had my love been too much, too controlling, too visible? The doubt pricked my heart, a venomous whisper in the quiet. But the more I reflected, the more I realized something vital. Love is not weakness. Generosity is not guilt. And truth, no matter how long buried, always finds a way to surface. That realization sparked the beginning of my plan. It wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be violent. It would be precise, methodical, and undeniable. I would gather evidence, proof of her lies, proof of her manipulation, and present it in a way that could not be ignored. Step 1 was documentation. I reviewed every text, every email, every transfer of funds, and every conversation I could recall. I organized them meticulously, dates, times, and context. Every small detail mattered. These pieces were not weapons, not yet. They were puzzle pieces that, when assembled, would reveal the bigger picture. Step 2 was allies. I reached out to a few trusted friends who had been subtly aware of the tensions, her aunt, a neighbor who had seen Madison's coldness firsthand, and even Ryan's sister, who had previously hinted at the inconsistencies in Madison's stories. Their support was cautious at first, but as I shared what I had observed, they understood. Step 3 was patience. This was crucial. Madison thrived on immediacy, quick judgments, snap decisions, emotional manipulation. I needed to stay several moves ahead, like a chess player anticipating every response. I had to wait for the perfect moment to strike, not in anger, but in truth. And then came the night that changed everything. I sat at my desk, the living room bathed in the soft glow of a single lamp, and drafted a series of letters. Not angry letters, not confrontational, but factual, documenting incidents, clarifying intentions, and presenting the undeniable truth in black and white. Each word was deliberate. Each paragraph was calculated. I also began planning for subtle public exposure. I didn't want humiliation. I wanted clarity. I wanted friends and family, the people who had been swayed by Madison's story, to see the facts as they were. Carefully, I prepared scenarios where my perspective would be undeniable: a family gathering, casual conversation, and carefully timed disclosures. Through this process, I felt a strange shift in myself. The raw hurt and confusion transformed into a quiet determination. I was no longer merely the mother who had been betrayed. I was the orchestrator of truth. I realized revenge was not about vindictiveness. It was about reclaiming dignity, restoring justice, and, if possible, opening a door for reconciliation, but only on my terms. By the end of those weeks of planning, I had created a strategy that was layered and multidimensional. Each step was designed to achieve multiple outcomes, to correct false narratives, to protect my emotional boundaries, and, if Madison chose, to offer her a chance to rebuild our relationship, but only after acknowledging the truth. As I looked out the window at the night sky, the city lights twinkling like scattered stars, I knew the next phase was the hardest. Execution. Turning plans into action. The stage was set, the pieces in place. And yet, I felt no fear, only a steady resolve. If you've been following this story, stay with me, because the next part is where the suspense peaks. The plan moves into action, secrets are revealed, and the shocking consequences unfold. Madison thought she had the power, but the real game was just beginning. The morning I decided to act, I woke with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in weeks. The hurt and confusion of Madison's betrayal had transformed into quiet, deliberate resolve. Every detail I had documented, every whispered lie she had spread, every slight she had thrown my way, it would all find its place. The first step was subtle exposure. I didn't storm into a confrontation or demand apologies. I invited a few close family members over for a casual lunch, nothing formal, just sandwiches, tea, and small talk. But the atmosphere was strategic. I knew who would notice inconsistencies, whose questions would be sharp enough to cut through lies. Madison arrived, radiant as ever, oblivious to the storm she had set in motion. Ryan followed, confident, protective, perhaps sensing that tension hung in the room but unsure why. I greeted them warmly, my smile steady, my calm betraying nothing of the plan that had been forming in my mind. As the conversation meandered, I introduced the first subtle proof, a casual mention of the Vegas hotel invoices, framed as a nostalgic comment. "I remember that suite on the Strip," I said lightly, "the one I helped cover. The little extra charge for the champagne, you remember?" Asterisk. Madison's face flickered, just barely, like a shadow passing over sunlight. Ryan shifted in his seat. A ripple of awareness passed through the table. I continued, weaving facts into casual remarks, payments, emails, text exchanges. Each was presented not as accusation, but as memory. And yet, the tension grew. Eyes widened, hands fidgeted, and the subtle cracks in Madison's composed exterior began to show. Next came more deliberate exposure. I arranged for a longtime family friend, someone Madison respected, to recount conversations where Madison had misrepresented events. Carefully, the friend relayed the facts without my prompting, leaving Madison's narrative hanging in the air, fragile and contradictory. "I thought you said Mom forced you into it," the friend said softly. Madison blinked. I didn't mean it that way. The words hung, weak and unconvincing. The room seemed to close in around her. From there, I escalated the plan to more public avenues. I organized a small gathering for extended family, a casual brunch that doubled as a reunion. Everyone knew about Madison's wedding. Everyone had heard her version of events. But I had prepared binders, neatly printed and organized, with emails, texts, receipts, every piece of evidence laid out clearly. When she tried to dominate the conversation, I subtly steered the discussion toward the facts. With calm authority, I began reading sections aloud. Dates, amounts, messages, and sequences, each word precise, each sentence undeniable. Family members leaned in, astonished. Even Ryan could not hide his discomfort. "Mom, you can't be serious," Madison stammered, her voice a fragile whisper. "I am," I said evenly. "I've kept quiet long enough. The truth needs to be seen." By the end of the brunch, whispers of astonishment filled the room. Those who had believed Madison's version were now forced to confront the discrepancies. The subtle shock on her face was intoxicating, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and dawning awareness. But I didn't stop there. I knew that subtle exposure alone wouldn't teach the full lesson. The next phase was controlled confrontation. I scheduled a private meeting with Madison and Ryan, framing it as a heart-to-heart. I spoke first, with calm authority, recounting my love, my intentions, and the betrayal I had endured. I presented the documents, the proof, and the careful records I had maintained. Every lie she had told was laid bare, every manipulation exposed. Her initial reaction was denial, followed by deflection. But the evidence was relentless. Every attempt to argue was met with undeniable facts. And slowly, as the weight of truth pressed down, cracks appeared in her armor. Tears, stammers, the realization that the narrative she had constructed was collapsing. By the end of the confrontation, Ryan and Madison were silent. Not from victory, but from comprehension, a stunned acknowledgement that the mother they had tried to vilify had not only been truthful but meticulous, patient, and strategically brilliant. Finally came the subtle, symbolic gesture that sealed the lesson. I presented Madison with a small framed photo of our family moments, the very same images I had once feared would remind me only of loss. I did not speak harshly, did not accuse. I simply handed it to her and said, "This is who we are. This is what love looks like even when it's tested. You can still choose to honor it." The impact was immediate. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered apologies, shaky and uncertain. The weight of betrayal, manipulation, and misunderstanding pressed down on her shoulders. It was not cruelty. It was truth. And truth, finally, was enough. In the days that followed, Madison began repairing bridges. The coldness thawed slowly, apologies were made, and conversations, honest ones, replaced the previous pattern of accusation and avoidance. Through careful, deliberate action, I had achieved what I had set out to do: reclaim dignity, expose lies, and create a path toward reconciliation. Revenge had been executed not through anger, but through clarity, patience, and strategy. The storm had passed, and in its wake, something fragile but beautiful remained. The house felt lighter, calmer, almost as if the walls themselves had exhaled after weeks of tension and hidden conflicts. Madison and I had spoken, really spoken, for the first time since that fateful Las Vegas trip. The conversation was not easy. Tears, confessions, apologies, and explanations flowed like a river finally breaking through a dam. She admitted the mistakes, the exaggerations, the lies she had spun to protect her pride, to control the narrative, and, perhaps unconsciously, to shield herself from guilt. "Mom," she said, her voice quivering, "I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I thought I was protecting myself, but I only pushed you away." I listened, letting her words settle. I could feel my own heart soften. Forgiveness was not instantaneous, it rarely is, but it began to take root. I realized something vital. The story was never truly about revenge or punishment. It was about truth, love, and boundaries. I told her gently, "Madison, I never wanted to control you. I wanted to support you. And now, we can start over, with honesty and respect." Over the next few weeks, bridges were rebuilt carefully, brick by brick. Conversations that had been silenced were now alive with laughter, candidness, and a new understanding. Ryan, too, became part of this healing process, acknowledging his part in misunderstandings and lending support where it had been lacking. The financial gifts, the gestures, even the Vegas adventure, none of that mattered as much as trust. Trust, once fractured, is fragile, but when repaired with care, it can shine stronger than before. I also learned a profound lesson about patience and strategy. Acting impulsively in hurt often worsens the wound, but measured responses, coupled with clarity and proof, can restore dignity and compel recognition of the truth. In my case, justice did not come through anger or retribution, but through precision, planning, and emotional control. Ultimately, Madison and I discovered a deeper bond, not perfect, perhaps, but honest. The scars of betrayal remained as reminders, but they were no longer sources of pain. Instead, they became markers of resilience, a testament to the strength that mothers and daughters can draw from love, even when tested in unimaginable ways. As I reflect on everything, I understand now, life will test relationships, loyalty, and hearts. Betrayal can happen even from those we love most. But the true lesson lies in how we respond, with patience, with integrity, and with courage to reclaim truth and dignity. To anyone listening, especially mothers and daughters navigating complicated relationships, hold on to love, but never sacrifice your boundaries. Protect your heart, document your truths, and remember that justice does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, patient and unstoppable. And finally, I leave you with this thought. Sometimes, the hardest battles are fought not with anger, but with clarity. And when they are won, they shine brighter than any neon lights on the Vegas Strip. If this story inspired you, touched your heart, or reminded you of the power of truth, like, subscribe, and share. Because everyone deserves a story where honesty and love prevail.